Greg, today we're talking about the full game release of Marvel's Avengers. Now, we talked a little bit about the beta already, but now that the game is out in full, talk to us about what you're experiencing thus far.
The Avengers is amazing. It's probably one of the funnest games I've played, if not ever, when it comes to superhero games. And and that's a lot to say, especially with the big games that's came out like Spiderman, right, Batman. You know, this one is extremely, extremely fun. That's all I can really say.
So what is it about the full game that makes it feel different from the beta? Or is it the same fun that you're having in the beta, just kind of unleashed by a full game release, right? Like, what is it that's so different?
I will say a lot of the things I was concerned with the beta, those concerns are no longer there. So a lot of different things, such as like the looting system and the repetitiveness that was a big issue for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I don't have any of those issues, especially with the full game.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I will say that it's amazing about it is that everyone feels just like that superhero that you pick.
Right.
So Iron Man feels like Iron Man. Thor feels like Thor. And the more time that you put into each hero, the better it gets.
So how has the combat system evolved, if any, from the beta? And what has kind of been your experience with all the characters? And then obviously, who are you enjoying the most? I feel like before you were talking about Black Widow. I'm curious if that's still the case.
Now, with the combat system, it's very, very intricate. Like, it's so much stuff that you can explore with each individual. So, for an example, with Black Widow, she has different guns at her disposal. She has different, grenades, things like that. So, but with her, she's close quarters. Same thing with Captain America. He's a very close quarters type person. But then when you switch over to Iron Man, he could be close quarters to a certain extent, but then he's going to be doing a lot of aerial assaults, and then bringing in the big explosions. He's the type of person that will just literally level the playing field by just dropping bombs on everybody. So the difference from the beta to the full game, you were capped off in the beta, but in the full game, what I've noticed is once everybody hits level 15, not as far as gear level, as far as your actual individual level,
your character level,
you unlock a whole nother set of stats that you can actually tinker with called mastery moves.
Right.
So for an example, everybody's limited as far as the kind of moves they can do. So we're going to just take Iron Man as an example. He can shoot out maybe 2 missiles at a time. And then he has a unibeam. You could probably use the unibeam maybe once every 2 to 3 minutes. But then when you unlock the mastery moves and start tinkering with different stats, you can actually unlock a move where the takedowns, it normally just gives you health. Like once you actually initiate a takedown, you will get health back. But then you can change it where instead of getting health back, you can get heroic orbs back, which allows you to do your special moves a lot more often.
Okay.
So instead of doing the actual unibeam once every 3 minutes, if you get enough takedowns, you can do the unibeam once every 25 to 30 seconds.
Right.
So because of that, it brings a lot more chaos that you're able to bring on to the enemy, depending on who you're playing with.
So it seems like it's like a base level of moves, and then from there, once you master the basics, right, you can ascend to a different kind of level of combat that you can Okay, all right. That's actually surprising. I didn't anticipate that at all.
Yeah, me either. And that's the thing. And the beta, they capped you, I think, like at level 10. But then once you hit level 15, that's when like the God mode of each individual Avenger is unlocked.
And so out of everything you've experienced thus far with the different characters and their various master level abilities, who are you favoring right now? Who's the favorite?
All right. So in the beta, and then also for the first part of once I completed the Avenger game, I will say it was Black Widow, hands down. Like I thoroughly enjoyed her. She kind of reminded me like Spiderman mixed with Batman mixed with Lara Croft. So it was a different feeling. Then I started to actually focus on Captain America. I was like, whoa, Captain America is like my favorite character. Okay. But then I was like, okay, well, let me go and check some other people out and see what they're like at level 15. Kamala Khan at level 15 is a beast. But then I will have to say my all-time favorite person now, once I got to level 15, was Iron Man.
Oh, wow.
And he was like my least favorite in the beta. But because I've unlocked everything, I'm just a beast with him. Like, it's kind of scary. Oh, wow. Like, I really, really feel like Iron Man just be blowing everything up. Like, it's pretty dope.
What about Thor and Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel?
Now, Thor was the person that I played with the least. So, but I can't really speak to him because I haven't played with him that much.
Yeah.
He did feel like more like a Kratos, being able to throw the hammer and bring it back.
Yeah.
And I know he can fly as well, but I didn't get him to level 15, so I can't just say he's garbage or anything like that. Sure. I just haven't put in that time. Now, Miss Marvel, I would say I didn't like her at first until I got her to level 15, and because of that, you was able to do her moves a lot more often. She's the type of person where she can go in and just beat a lot of people up close quarters.
So she's kind of a close quarters brawler herself, you're saying?
Yes. Okay. She's very close quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, with her embiggen power, she can like help control the flow of the battlefield by pushing everything back or stunning everything.
So out of everybody, if top two, let's not do top two. Rank them in your mind from best to worst. How would you rank the characters?
As far as my opinion, as far as how I played with them, and I feel like Thor's not going to get
Thor.
I know Thor's not going to get a fair handshake on this one, but from my personal experience, it goes Iron Man. It's a close second with Captain America, then Black Widow, then Kamala Khan, Hulk, and then Thor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
The weird thing to me is Hulk seems like and I haven't played the game, so, full disclosure. But it seems like Hulk is kind of a generalist in many ways because he obviously is capable of mass destruction, right? But he can't fly, right? He can't really close distances super fast, at least from what I've seen. But he can throw things, right? He can like grab the ground and like pull stuff from the ground and throw stuff, right?
Yeah.
But he's not aerial, right? He's stuck on the ground, and I think he can jump pretty high, right? Like I feel like I've seen some footage of him jumping. But he just, it just seems like he's more of a generalist and can obviously just destroy a lot of things relatively quickly. But like the thing I'm kind of looking forward to in my personal gameplay is checking out Thor, because he seems like he's a mix of being aerial and being like functional on the ground, while at the same time having like a long distance range kind of fire ability or something like that. But judging from what I've seen, and then obviously not playing the game, your list makes a lot of sense. What I'm very curious about is your experience with the loot system, because I know that the way that this game is kind of set up, it feels structurally like a Destiny, right? But I also know that you're not a big looter. That's not typically what drives your interest in a game or really maintains your interest. So I'm curious how the loot system has played out, because when you were playing the beta, it didn't seem like that was something that had been fully fleshed out, but at the same time didn't bother you because that's not why you were there.
Okay, so I remember in the beta, what I was expressing was I didn't really care. I'm like, it's whatever. I know you got the people who they want to get their interests, as far as for trying to bring in replayable content and something to do, a grind, as they call it. Now, what I will say, actually being exposed to the entire looting system, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Really?
Now,
okay.
yes.
That's quite
I know
the change.
Yes, I know it's literally what a 180,
Right.
because I didn't care for it. Now I care for it, and that's why I tell people like, hey, don't judge the book until you actually read it. I have read it. I am reading it a second time,
Yeah.
going through everything that I missed, the little details, and I
you beat the
thoroughly
entire game,
enjoy.
right?
Yeah, I beat the game. Yeah, I beat the
Okay.
game. But what I will say about the looting system, some things that was very great. Like, for an example, the cosmetic side, there is no cosmetic side. It doesn't, like if you find a belt or you find some gauntlets, it does not change the look of your player. In this one, though, some of the things do change when it comes to attacking your enemy. So for an example, and this is what was really, really cool about it, like your gauntlets might have pim particles. Pim particles make you big or small from Ant-Man.
From Ant-Man.
So they might have it where if you complete a light combo, then you will actually shrink the person that you're fighting.
Makes
And they
them
will be
weaker
they
then,
will
I
be
assume.
smaller and they'll be weaker, they'll be slower. Or they might add cryo damage. So you might go for an uppercut and then next thing you know you see them being lifted off their feet in slow motion, but then they're also frozen. Like so the cosmetic side has been applied to the actual move set and shown to the actual enemies.
Right.
So that was the sweet part about it that they didn't actually showcase in the actual beta.
Right.
The other thing about the looting system as well, it gives you further control as far as how your character actually performs. So before in the actual beta, it just made your power level go higher.
Right.
I'm like, okay. But now they have it where there are 6 different attributes. There's like valor, there's a valor, there's intensity, there's a might. So depending on what you want to focus on, like if you want to go in and you want to be a heavy brawler, you want to actually defeat a lot of enemies by punching them, then you want to get gear that's going to focus on might, which is your actual melee combat strength.
Right.
Or if you're Iron Man, you want to focus on precision because that's going to increase the damage of your ranged weapons. So because of that, it brings in a whole nother depth of actually customizing your Avenger exactly how you want them. And because of that, that's what made it actually fun. Because for me, I am really great as being nimble, not being hit a lot. So I bring my defense all the way down. That way I can have my offense at a all-time high, so I can go and obliterate anybody. But if I get hit 1 or 2 times, it's over for me. Yeah,
Right.
But I
that's
like
what you
that
got another
challenge though.
You got teammates for it, right? Like to
Exactly.
pick you back up.
They can pick
Yeah.
me up.
That's why you got the squad.
Yeah. Which I will say is the multiplayer has been extremely fun as well.
Great.
And because of that, depending on who I'm playing with, I might change attributes depending on what the situation is.
Right. That's actually a perfect segue into the multiplayer. Your experience, it sounds like, has been pretty positive thus far. I'm always curious about how like their matchmaking system is set up, because there are games that do it extremely well, and then there are games that do it terribly. As much as I loved, and this is an older game at this point, but like as much as I loved
Grand Theft Auto,
and Metal Gear Solid 5, their setup for matchmaking was the worst. You know, the worst out of them. The most egregious version is Grand Theft Auto. But how do they match you up with other players? Is that experience largely seamless?
Right. So what I will say is, if I didn't experience the same thing with you as far as how Grand Theft Auto was so terrible at first when they first came out.
It has since improved, to be fair to it.
Yes, it has improved drastically, but when it first came out, it was unplayable. So comparing it to that, Avengers is not bad at all. But they still have some things they have to work out.
Right.
So for an example, you might go into a match and certain stuff may not be working, like your HUD. You can't see your health, or you can't see your enemy's health.
Right.
So that's been one of the issues. Another issue is sometimes when you're actually just loading in, it may not even go into the match. But that's only happened just a couple times. And then I would say those were like the two main problems. Everything else is something that they actually fixed within the first couple of days.
And is there a wider breadth of enemy types? I know it seems like there's a ton of enemies on screen for you guys to fight, but are there different kinds of enemies? Or at least, I know there are different kinds, but do you find, generally speaking, that there's always some sense of variety in the kind of enemies that you're facing?
Yes, there's always variety depending on the level of difficulty you're playing.
Okay.
And the other thing is, like for me, I started it from brutal, from day one, even from the beta. I start the games on the most challenging difficulty because I like the challenge. I embrace the challenge. It's fun for me. But what I was noticing was the couple times that I played it on normal when I was playing with somebody else, the enemies were very basic.
Okay.
You know, so playing it on brutal, not only do they bring in so many different types of enemies, even those basic enemies have even more moves. So for an example, the basic enemy might have a rocket launcher. And then, you know, you can just deflect the rocket with ease. But if you play it on brutal, the rockets become unblockable. You have to move out the way.
Right. Is the AI pretty good? Like
yes.
The enemies are smart.
Yes. Okay. The enemies are smarter. They'll chase you down. And like I said, depending on the situation, they may use different moves to actually combat you. So for an example, I'm Iron Man. You know, different enemies, they may be primarily melee enemies, but if they see me flying, they'll try to blast me out the sky.
So before we get into the actual story, I want to spend some time and talk a little bit about the post-campaign activities, right? Walk me through what your experience has been after finishing the campaign and the story.
So what I will say is that I have had just as much fun with the post-campaign and the multiplayer than when I was actually doing the campaign. They do a really great job continuing on the story. And because of that, and then also the different types of missions you can do, is so much variety, it doesn't get old. You know, there are different sabotage missions where you have to go in and actually destroy different things. And then they have daily villain missions where you have to actually fight a different villain. It might be Taskmaster, or it might be Abomination. The great thing is when you're playing these daily missions or weekly missions, there are a different set of rules for every time you approach it. So for an example, you might fight Taskmaster, but this time around, plasma damage might do 200 times more than it normally does. Or enemies may not drop health packs, which makes it more challenging. Or you can't be revived. So if you go down, it's a wrap. So those are the different types of rules depending on which villain that you play, which day that you play it on, which brings in the variety. And
so you have the option of choosing different villains to fight, or is it just kind of like a daily kind of like challenge of like, these are the people that you can fight and these are different caveats for each of those missions? How is that set up?
So far, I would say this is like day 3. And what it seems like, because you can join factions, and each faction have its own bonus that you can do to get more experience, to get earn more money, more currency. But then those missions typically end of like the villain of the day. And there's two factions. So each faction would have a villain of the day.
And so are you competing with that other faction, or is it just kind of two factions existing?
Oh no, it's just two factions existing. Okay. And you're actually joined both.
Okay. Gotcha.
You know, so it's just that, you know, each faction wants you to do different stuff. So faction number 1 might want you to kill 60 enemies airborne. And then that's how you'll level that one up. And in faction 2, it might say kill 12 enemies with your heroic ability.
Right.
So they give you different challenges that you have to do, but they also are attached with different missions.
So in the post-game activities, what's like the thrust? Like, why are you there? Like, is it to gain loot and reach a higher level? Or is it that by the time you end the story mission, you're not like maxed out in your level, right? So there's still room for your character to grow. Like, what's the scenario?
Oh, man, there's so much you can still do after the campaign. So for an example, I think you can get to your actual Avenger level to level 50. Mm-hmm. And then your gear amount, you can get up to level 150. When I beat the game, I believe my highest Avenger was maybe level 22, 23.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then my gear level was like maybe 50.
Oh, wow.
So there's so much more you can do.
Right.
Like for me, I want to say it took me about 3 days to beat the campaign. Because again, I was playing it on brutal. But my nephew played it on normal and he beat it in like 6 hours.
So because you're playing on brutal and he's playing on normal, you guys can't play this story together. You can only play like online.
No, what it does, I believe it actually matches your level.
Okay.
So my level can be way higher than his.
Right.
So if I'm at level 100 and he's a level 20, then there's going to be issues. But if I'm within like 20 or 30, then I'm still able to play with him.
Right. Okay.
So depending on my level and your level, I can always play with a lower level. So if you're level 10 and I'm a level 100, I can do your missions with you.
Right.
But the opposite is not the same.
Right.
Because my levels is going to be requesting a higher level.
Right.
And if you're not even close to that, then it will literally give you a warning saying, hey, your level is too low. You cannot join this game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So at this point, we're going to start talking about the campaign and the story, right? So what you should be seeing on your screen is a spoiler alert. It should be flashing and blinking on your screen. You should see it. This is your last warning. Here we go. All right. So the people have been warned. Talk to us about the story. What happens in the campaign? As we all know, we're following Ms. Marvel when the game starts. But what happens after the helicarrier explodes and seemingly Captain America meets his demise?
So there's a lot that's going on. The Avengers, they're no longer talking to each other. They're mad at each other. And it's pretty much Bruce's fault. He kind of admitted to the world that the Avengers and people with powers are extremely dangerous. And because of that, that gave different agencies the green light to, number one, disband the Avengers, and number two, basically lock up anybody who got powers. But what they end up doing is they try to mask it as if they're giving people the cure, but their actual agenda is that they were actually taking these powers from them to actually equip it to their own military or machines, but they were killing the actual people with the powers.
And this
so
is
they said,
AIM,
oh yeah,
I assume.
Yes, this is AIM. That's correct. The other thing is one of the main villains that you come to find out it is MODOK. He's the one that's actually trying to cure everybody. He don't want anybody to actually have powers, including himself. So he's going into it like the only thing that should be living on this earth is humans. Even if it kills me, all Inhumans need to die.
Right.
So he's willing to do anything and everything to do it.
And what's his motivation? Like, why is he so hell-bent on doing this?
Because he feels that they're a threat to the planet. And like I said, Dr. Banner, the Hulk, his testimony kind of tipped everything over the edge. Like, yes, that's proof. We're confirming. That's coming from the actual Avenger that all Inhumans are dangerous.
Right.
So you understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, you definitely don't agree with his methods. And he's also crazy, in which he slowly turns into MODOK. but not without the help of Monica. I'm pretty sure that's her name. Monica is like the head scientist who's doing all these experiments on all the people trying to weaponize everything. So Captain America is dead, as everybody knows. He dies in the actual explosion on a day. But throughout the story, you're trying to uncover the truth on exactly what happened to Captain America. Because you get footage that the doctor, who was MODOK, who was the doctor at the time, actually locked him into a room. There's no audio, but there's only video. And all you see is that he locked Captain in his room and then he runs. And then that's when the explosion happens. So that's your whole reason for trying to figure out everything and attacking AIM. Right. Is because you got this little clip of a video that, man, Captain America was murdered by the creator of AIM. Later on, you finally get the entire footage. You realize that Captain America literally says,
"Then get out and seal the door." What?
Yeah. So you like, whoa, like, man, oh my God, I've been trying to take down AIM, because of this bad guy, but come to find out, he really didn't kill Captain America.
Right.
Captain America, like, sacrificed himself. Yeah, okay. Exactly. And then what you see is Captain America goes into the arc reactor to blow it up. And that's what caused the explosion that killed, hundreds of thousands of people.
Oh, so Captain America actually killed people?
Exactly. It wasn't intentional, but that's what the video footage you see. Captain America was the cause of that explosion.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother thing. And because of that, the Avengers that came together, now they're mad at each other again.
Damn it.
So you see the Hulk and then Iron Man do like a little duel again. So it's really great how they bring in that perspective. Like I said, it's almost like a movie, like you're watching an Avengers movie.
Did he try and like smash it with a shield or something like that? Or like, what did he do?
Did he smash it with a shield?
Yeah, I just don't picture Captain America being like, I'm going to push the buttons and stuff. I'm going to try.
Yeah, he tried to push the buttons first and it didn't work. He was trying. That's when he was like, okay, this is not working. And then yo, Doc, you need to get out of here. And then he was like, he just used brute force to blow up the reactor. Like if you're not smart enough to do it, the next logical thing is to hit it. That's
the action movie trope. Like if the keypad isn't working, you just shoot the keypad and then the door opens. That's not how it works.
That doesn't work in real life. It doesn't work at all. Like, come on, man. Like the door is just gonna remain shut, bro. So Captain is dead. You see the actual footage, and you're like, dang, your actions is like, man, we've been trying to take down this company, but in actuality, did they really do something wrong? And that's what put the doubt back into the Hulk again. Like, see, I told you, we dangerous. Like, look at this.
Right.
But then, the person who brings the Avengers back, again, the second time, is Miss Marvel. She's like the glue out of everybody. She's the one. Like, hey, look, you guys are the Avengers. You guys stand for something. Yes, this proves that, hey, Captain America probably died and he killed people, but there had to be a reason. He's just not going to blow everybody up.
Right.
So what they ended up doing was I don't want to give everything away, but they ended up finding out that whatever their source of power, their laboratory, is not even on Earth. It's on a satellite.
Oh, wow.
So...
Okay.
So the sweet part was that Iron Man had to build a suit that was capable for space. So him actually building that suit and then you actually controlling it while you're flying out of space with the rock and roll music playing in the back. It was pretty epic. It was an epic moment. Yeah, it was an epic moment. So you finally reach the satellite. You get there. There's no one there. But this is the source of the energy that AIM is using to help create their super mutant military.
Right.
Come to find out, it was driven by a regenerative source, something that regenerates. Come to find out, it was Captain America strapped up to a whole bunch of machines, and they was using his blood to actually help bring in the power of their actual machines.
So wait, so he didn't actually die in the explosion?
He didn't die in the explosion.
I've seen the explosion. How did he not die in the explosion? I mean, I'm all for
he's Captain America, yo.
Let me be clear. I'm a big fan of Captain America, but come on now. It was a massive explosion.
Yeah, I can't speak on that. Like,
did he at least have a headache or something like that? Like, was he like, oh man, that was crazy last week?
Yeah. Oh no, this is 5 years later. So Captain America's been dead for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
He's been dead. Okay. I'm doing air quotes. He's been dead, air quotes, for 5 years.
You know what? I wonder. I just, just listening to you describe this, I really wonder if like we're gonna have a second like Avengers, and we're gonna find out that wasn't the real Captain America or something like that.
They could go that route. Like it could have been like this man
like later in the DLC like goes like, "Hail Hydra," everyone, and then it just cuts to black. Everyone's
that would be crazy. I mean, but they kept it open at the end of it where the possibilities are endless.
Right. And it seems like from your description of the events, and then obviously the bit of research that I've done online, it seems like Miss Marvel's character is kind of like the heart of the story and kind of driving things. Is that a fair description?
Yes. No, that's the description. That's it.
Oh, there you go. How well do they do in kind of like setting up and then paying off her character at the end? Does it feel like there's a really solid arc there? Is she really positively developed as a character and everything like that?
Yeah, I would say the character development for her was amazing, because at first she was just a kid who was just unsure of herself. She had like these little moments where like she would stand up to a bully, but then after she stood up to the bully, she would doubt herself, like, man, should I have done that? Yeah. But then going further, finally finding one of the Avengers, the Hulk, convincing him like, hey, we got to do the right thing. Right. She was the person who literally gave them the inspiration to get back together and to keep fighting.
Okay.
And then they went at odds again. She was the person who brought them back a second time.
Right.
And then, spoiler alert, the third thing was she was the person who saved them all, went to defeat MODOK.
Oh, look at you, Miss Marvel.
Yeah, it got right. She got to the point where everybody was about to die, and because of her, she was able to save the day and finish everything out.
That's fantastic. So, as we like to do, it is now September. It's fair to begin to, or continue rather, to have this conversation. How are we feeling like this game stands in the pantheon of releases for 2020? Where do you think this stands as far as Game of the Year contenders?
It's difficult. And the reason why I say it's difficult, because normally
it's always
not
difficult.
This many games. Like no, this has been like the most difficult year. Like there are so many great games that's out. Like you got The Last of Us 2 that was pushing the limits. Then you have Ghost of Tsushima, which did its own thing, and also implementing a multiplayer, so that way you have that continuous play.
Yeah. I love how they released that, by the way. I know I talk about it several times, but that was real slick.
It was real dope. It was like, oh, you done with the campaign? Boom, this is what we got next. Have that for you. So that was pretty cool. But this game is completely different. Like, does it have a compelling story? It does.
Yeah.
Is the gameplay satisfying? It is. Once you beat the game, can you beat the game again or continue to play it? Right. You can. At this point, I probably put in more hours in the Avengers than Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us combined now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm still playing,
Right.
So right now at this point, I'm not going to be playing any other games for a long time until Ghost of Tsushima's multiplayer come out. I'm gonna definitely take that on.
Right.
But right now, I don't have any interest on going to The Last of Us.
So how do you balance the value of replayability versus the quality of the story? You know, like how do you balance that in your decision making of like what could be a contender or what should be the game of the year?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know what the actual requirements of the game of the year is. I'm not sure they're just going based off of graphics. Plays.
No, I know
that's
that,
something
but
that
like,
we need to do.
Yeah,
That's something we need to do. We need to
I'm
actually
asking
see.
you. No. You trying to dodge the question. I know what you're doing. You're trying to dodge the question. You know, I don't know how the decisions are made by the official. Blah, blah, blah. I'm asking you for your opinion. Like, what is it that is a personal kind of thing? Like, what would you weigh as more important, replayability or just like the quality of the story? Because it seems like Avengers still has a quality story.
Yes.
And obviously like Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima both have quality stories as well. But it doesn't seem like the story portion of Ghost of Tsushima is all that replayable, but they have this multiplayer component, right? And I wonder if a game like The Last of Us loses a lot of its oomph, you know, if you play it a second time, because you kind of know what to expect, right?
Yes.
Yes. You can't relive that first impression that you have, right? So I'm curious kind of how you weigh those two things and your own personal decision making over what should be the game of the year. And you can't rely on the judges whoever is voting for whatever's game of the year, whoever those people are. I'm asking, you know, what's your point of view on it?
All right, my opinion, flat out, I will say is the value of the game. Now, the storyline is great. You know, the writing, the narrative, what I've learned from a video game, all of that stuff is all well and said is good. But my thing is on what's important to me. Once I beat the game, do I want to go back and play it, or is there something for me to do afterwards? And what I will say, personally, if a game can keep me playing, it can give me something to do from hours and hours and hours, in days and weeks and months and years. That's something that's very, very important. Yeah. You know, so for me, I would have to probably give it to Marvel's Avengers.
Oh, wow.
You know,
That's quite the statement right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the graphics is not as great as Last of Us. And the storytelling, I will admit, is not as great as The Last of Us. And maybe even Ghost of Tsushima, because those topics was something that was really controversial when it comes to, you know, playing both sides, understanding both sides of a narrative. Last of Us, you played as the good guy, and then you played as the villain, which was actually a good guy depending on what perspective you're looking at.
Right. How you define a villain.
Exactly. Same thing as the Ghost of Tsushima. Depending on whose eyes you're looking at, you can't really just call somebody a villain. It's just your perspective. With Avengers, you know, there's the good guys and then there's the bad guys, period. You know,
it's more
there's
of a
no kind of way that you
narrative.
can spin it. Yeah, you kind of understand where MODOK is coming from, but at the end of the day, he's just flat out wrong. He's just killing people. He's killing everybody. Right. So storyline is important. It's great. It's amusing. It's fun. It shouldn't be dismissed that easily. But if I'm gonna be playing this game for maybe years to come, it wins.
There you go.
It wins. So
especially,
that's why
I think when you take into account, you know, the additional DLCs that we know they're going to come out with, the additional characters, the storylines that one would assume can come from that. I get that. That makes sense.
What I will say, if I had to rank it this way, let's do it this way. If I ranked it straight off a story, like, man, the cinematics of everything, Last of Us won, hands down. Yeah, hands down, Last of Us won. But then when you get into gameplay, I will say Last of Us was amazing, and I'm not trying to slight it in any kind of way, but Ghost of Tsushima was just incredibly fun throughout the entire journey. Right. You know, you really felt like a samurai, you know. But then when you come to longevity, I'm gonna have to give it to Avengers, because not only was the campaign really great, the gameplay is great. There are 5 characters that you can build upon. So that's like almost playing a game with 5 different people. That's playing a game 5 times. But then let's not even forget about the other stuff that's about to happen. They're about to bring in Hawkeye. They're about to bring in Kate Bishop. They're about to bring in Black Panther. They're about to bring in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to not give it to them when you think of all the content that they provide.
Okay, that is quite the endorsement and the prediction. Quite the prediction. We should say that, and I think we should all hold him accountable to it in the comment section. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it hurts for me to say it, because all 3 of those games were incredibly great games. The studios, they deserve their props. All 3 of them deserve our money, hands down.
Yeah.
But when it just boils down to it, the longevity of the Avengers, I feel that this game can go on for years.
Okay. Well, you can't argue with that. So Greg, any last words, last impressions for the people out there?
Yeah, what I will say is buy the Avengers. It's hands down one of the most fun that you can have if you're into superheroes. Because that's a whole nother thing. If you don't really care about the superhero aspect of it, or the Avengers, then this may or may not be the game for you. And for me, I think it will still be incredibly cool. In fact, if you buy the game, that might make you a fan, into superheroes. So it's an incredibly great game, I feel, on how they did everything. It's pretty cool to just pick up and play with your friends and family. All in all, I'll say they deserve our money.
There you go. We vote with our money.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I got. I definitely want to say thank you, everybody, for taking the time, the patience to continue to rock with us. If you have any feedback or if you have any predictions on Game of the Year, make sure you write them in the comments. But with that being said, I appreciate y'all, and I will see you guys on the next show. Peace.